Growth Handbook by Elad Gil. Picture this. You've finally done it. That idea that's been rattling around in your head, you made it real. You found a scrappy team of believers, pulled all-nighters fueled by pizza and caffeine, and somehow built something people actually want. And then the crazy part happens. It doesn't just work. It absolutely takes off. Thousands of users become millions. Your phone won't stop ringing with investors. Reporters want your story. You're living the startup dream. Here's the twist nobody mentions. That dream can feel more like stumbling through a house fire in the dark. Chaotic, terrifying, overwhelming. And yes, that's a real quote from the guy who literally wrote the survival guide. Today we're diving into the Growth Handbook by Elad Gil, one of Silicon Valley's most seasoned veterans. This isn't some armchair theorist spouting motivational fluff. Elad lived through Google's explosive growth from 1,500 to 15,000 employees. He was a vice president at Twitter as it rocketed from 90 people to over 1,000. And he's advised or invested in companies you probably used this morning: Airbnb, Stripe, Coinbase, Pinterest, Square. The man has seen every flavor of startup chaos imaginable. This book isn't about finding your brilliant idea or building your first prototype. It's about what happens when your idea actually works. When your scrappy little rowboat suddenly sprouts rocket engines and starts shaking apart as it blasts toward the stratosphere. It tackles the questions that haunt successful founders at 3 a.m. How do you stay sane when everyone wants a piece of you? How do you hire executives for jobs you've never done yourself? How do you manage board members who can either champion you or push you out? Most importantly, how do you transform a beautiful, messy explosion of growth into something that can actually last? By the end of this, you'll have a roadmap, a battle-tested guide for one of business's wildest rides, taking a company from 10 employees to 10,000. So grab your favorite beverage and let's jump in. Every legendary company has that pivotal moment, the point where the tight-knit band of rebels has to become a real organization. And right in the middle of that transformation sits the founder, suddenly realizing that whatever got them here probably won't get them there. Here's Elad's first reassuring message. If your fast-growing company feels like chaos wrapped in stress topped with confusion, relax. Everyone feels this way. Hypergrowth is inherently messy. And the first person you need to wrangle in all this chaos? Yourself. Before you can inspire thousands or set brilliant strategy, you have to master managing your own time and energy. As your company scales, the demands on your calendar grow exponentially. Suddenly, everyone wants a slice of your time: your team, customers, investors, journalists. Those scrappy habits that got you to product-market fit? They'll break completely. You can't attend every meeting anymore. You can't write the code or design the interface yourself. So what's the move? First lesson, simple to say but brutally hard to do: delegate. You have to learn to trust your team to carry the weight. Great CEOs, Elad explains, start acting like routers. They absorb information in meetings, then route the right tasks to the right people. Often, they walk out with almost nothing on their own to-do list. Their job becomes empowering others, not doing everything themselves. If you're constantly leaving meetings buried in action items, that's a red flag. You're not delegating enough. Which brings us to the second critical skill, the strategic power of saying no. One of the most valuable things a CEO can do is ruthlessly protect their time by saying no to anything that isn't the highest leverage use of their energy. That means declining most press opportunities, turning down speaking gigs, skipping networking events that sound interesting but aren't essential. You have to audit your calendar weekly and ask the uncomfortable question: does this really need me? Or could someone else on my team handle it? And this discipline extends beyond work into life itself. A burned-out CEO becomes a liability to everyone. Elad shares his own mistake from Color Genomics' early days. Working every weekend, taking investor calls during his anniversary trip, trying to stay productive even on vacation. That path leads exactly one place: burnout. His advice feels almost radical in startup culture. Take real vacations where you actually unplug. Protect at least one full day every week as genuinely work-free. Schedule date nights like their board meetings. Block time for exercise. Your energy level sets the tone for the entire company. If you crash, everything else starts crumbling too. Once you've got yourself sorted, your next challenge is managing the powerful people around you. Let's start with one of the most mysterious groups, your board of directors. Elad offers this perfect metaphor. If your co-founder is like your spouse, then board members are like your in-laws. You'll see them regularly, they're nearly impossible to remove, and they can dramatically impact your company's future. Choosing board members ranks among the most important hires you'll ever make. A great board member helps with strategy, opens doors for executive recruiting, and coaches you through the hard times. A bad one can derail everything. Most board members will be venture capitalists who've invested in your company, but you'll also have independent seats, usually filled by other entrepreneurs or executives. The biggest trap? What Elad calls the VC crony. This happens when a VC suggests their buddy for an independent seat. That person's loyalty lies with the VC, not you. When tension arises, they'll vote with their VC friend, and you've effectively lost control of your own board. How do you avoid this? Treat hiring a board member like hiring your most critical executive. Create an actual job description. What experience do you need? What specific skills? Ideally, you want someone who's been an entrepreneur themselves. They understand the emotional roller coaster and won't panic when crisis hits. And crucially, you need genuine personal rapport. This should be someone you'd feel comfortable calling at midnight on Friday with a problem. This leads to one of the book's most powerful insights from legendary investor Reid Hoffman, LinkedIn's co-founder. He suggests thinking about your relationship with the board using a traffic light system: green, yellow, and red. Green is the default. It means you're the CEO. We trust your judgment. We're here to advise, not dictate. The board believes in you. Red means they've decided you're not the right CEO anymore. It's just a matter of timing at that point. The dangerous zone is yellow. Yellow means we're questioning whether you're the right leader. We're not sure if we should be at green or red. Bad boards leave CEOs stuck in yellow indefinitely, creating a paralyzing uncertainty. A good board recognizes that yellow must be temporary. They agree on what needs to happen and by when to either return to green or move to red. They don't leave you dangling. Understanding this dynamic helps you manage your board effectively. You need clarity on where you stand and allies who genuinely want to help you succeed, not just evaluate you. With your psychology managed and your board aligned, it's time to build the actual machine that runs your company, your executive team. For first-time founders, this often feels terrifying. You've succeeded so far without any fancy corporate types from big tech companies. But at some point, things start breaking. Communication bottlenecks appear everywhere. Teams lose coordination. You simply run out of bandwidth. This is when you need experienced leaders. But how do you hire for a job you've never done and don't fully understand? How does a 25-year-old founder hire a world-class CFO or VP of sales? Keith Rabois, a legendary operator from PayPal, LinkedIn, and Square, offers brilliant advice. Find the 5 best people in the world at that role and just have coffee with them. Don't try to recruit them. Just ask for their perspective on the role and what excellence looks like. Through those conversations, you'll develop a mental benchmark for distinguishing truly exceptional candidates from merely good ones. Then when you interview actual candidates, you can measure them against the very best. When you do hire, Elad stresses one crucial principle: hire for the next 12 to 18 months, not for forever. If your engineering team is growing from 10 to 30 people this year, you don't need someone who managed 500 engineers at a tech giant. That person will be bored and mismatched. You need someone who's navigated the next stage of growth, not 10 stages ahead. Either they'll grow with the company, or you'll hire someone new later. And that's perfectly okay. This brings us to one of the most fascinating roles in hypergrowth companies, nicknamed after a character from the movie Pulp Fiction, The Wolf. Ruchi Sangvi, Facebook's first female engineer and later a Dropbox VP, explains this concept brilliantly. When you're growing explosively, gaps appear constantly. You don't have a head of marketing yet. Your recruiting process is broken. Your communication strategy doesn't exist. You can't spend 6 months searching for the perfect executive for each gap. You need someone to fix problems now. Enter the wolf. This is a trusted, highly respected person, often an early employee or a founder from an acquired company who can parachute into any broken area, take ownership, fix it, then move on to the next fire. Ruchi herself played this role at Dropbox. Hired as VP of Operations, she first fixed recruiting, then moved to marketing, then communications. She was the human Band-Aid, plugging holes so the company could keep scaling. The key insight? This role is temporary. The wolf's ultimate job in each area is hiring their own replacement, the permanent executive, who will build that function long-term. If someone's playing the wolf for more than 2 years, something's wrong. You've become dependent on the Band-Aid instead of building real organizational muscle. As you build this team of executives and problem solvers, your company structure will keep shifting underneath you. This is another area where founders get stuck. They believe there's one right way to organize. Elad's message is liberating. There is no right answer. Organizational structure is pure pragmatism. If you're growing fast, you essentially have a different company every 6 to 12 months. Your org chart isn't sacred. It's a temporary solution for today's problems. Don't search for the perfect long-term structure. It doesn't exist. Sometimes an executive's capacity matters more than textbook organizational fit. At Twitter, their general counsel at various points also ran user support, mergers and acquisitions, and other areas that wouldn't normally report to a lawyer. Why? Because he was exceptionally talented and had bandwidth to own those areas until dedicated leaders could be hired. Your job as CEO is pragmatism. Put your best people on your biggest problems, regardless of what the textbook says, and communicate that these reorganizations aren't failures. They're growing pains of a winning company. As the company changes, so must its most fundamental element, culture. Patrick Collison, Stripe's brilliant co-founder and CEO, offers profound insight here. The goal isn't preserving culture, it's collectively steering the right evolution of culture. Too many companies get nostalgic about the good old days as a small team. They cling to a culture built for 10 people when they're now 500. This is disaster waiting to happen. Patrick argues for brutal honesty. In so many ways, we were kind of clueless back then. We didn't know what we were doing. The challenge isn't freezing your culture in time. It's guiding its growth thoughtfully. How? First, be incredibly explicit about your values from day one. If you believe in working intensely hard, say so directly. If you believe in iterating 5 times to achieve perfection, state it clearly. Don't hide behind vague language like, "We value commitment." Be concrete. This way, people know what they're signing up for. The right people will be attracted, and the wrong ones will self-select out. Second, when you hire senior leaders from different backgrounds, embrace that they'll change the culture. That's the entire point. When Stripe hired their COO from Google's sales organization, people worried she'd dilute their engineering-first culture. Patrick's response was clear. That's literally the job. You hire a sales leader because you want to become better at selling. And who steers this evolution? The CEO. Culture is one of the few things a CEO cannot delegate. It's so fundamental that handing it off becomes genuinely problematic. There can't be a culture czar separate from leadership. The CEO is the culture czar. Finally, as your company matures, your relationship with money transforms. Early on, you're just trying not to run out. But in hypergrowth, money becomes a tool, a weapon, and a source of immense pressure. One big temptation for successful founders is raising money at the absolute highest valuation possible, It feels great, generates positive press, and helps recruiting. But Elad warns, don't over-optimize your valuation. A valuation that's too high creates crushing expectations. It can force you into unsustainable growth, burning cash on unprofitable customers just to show progress. It makes your next fundraising round incredibly difficult, because investors will expect another massive leap. And it can demoralize employees if your valuation stays flat for years while the business slowly grows into its price tag. As company value soars, another complex issue emerges: secondary stock sales. This is when early employees, founders, or investors sell some private company stock before an IPO, gaining financial security without waiting for a public exit. Founder stock sales particularly have become more common. Selling a small portion, say up to 10% of your holdings, can actually benefit the company. It lets founders reduce financial pressure so they can focus on long-term success rather than pushing for a quick sale. This all leads to the final stage in a high-growth company's journey, going public through an IPO. Today, many founders hesitate to take companies public. They worry about stock market distractions, costs, and pressure from public investors. Keith Rabois argues these are mostly excuses. He points out that the most innovative companies on Earth, Google, Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Tesla, are all public. With the right leadership, you can innovate even better publicly. Going public brings discipline and accountability that's actually healthy. It gives you liquid currency to acquire other companies, something Facebook desperately wished it had when trying and failing to buy Twitter early on. And perhaps most importantly, it helps with employee retention and recruiting. Public companies are perceived as more stable, and liquid stock is powerful compensation. So when is a company ready to go public? The key, Keith says, is predictability. When you can confidently forecast your business 6 months out, when you've precisely mastered the levers driving your growth, you're ready. From the first chaotic days to ringing the bell on Wall Street, the hypergrowth journey demands constant transformation. It requires leaders to not only build products and companies, but to rebuild themselves, their teams, and their culture again and again, all while rocketing forward at impossible speed. Stepping back from Elad Gil's landscape in the High Growth Handbook, one theme emerges with striking clarity. Scaling a company isn't just about getting bigger. It's a profound act of transformation that tests the limits of a leader's psychology, pragmatism, and vision. This book's power comes from demystifying chaos. It takes the terrifying, overwhelming feeling of hypergrowth and breaks it into a series of difficult but manageable challenges. This isn't abstract philosophy. It's a tactical playbook, a collection of hard-won lessons from the absolute front lines of tech. The most resonant lesson for me is that the first system a leader must build is for managing themselves. We often imagine great CEOs as visionaries, standing on mountaintops pointing forward. But Gil, drawing from raw experience, reminds us the real work begins with the quiet, unglamorous discipline of managing your own calendar, energy, and focus. The ability to delegate, say no, and protect your well-being isn't a soft skill. It's the fundamental prerequisite for leading a team through storms. Without it, the leader becomes the bottleneck, and the entire organization grinds to a halt under their burnout. Another powerful idea is the pragmatism guiding every decision, especially around people and structure. The interviews with operators like Patrick Collison, Keith Rabois, and Ruchi Sangvi reinforce this repeatedly. There's no perfect org chart, no permanent culture, only what works right now, for the next 12 to 18 months. This is both terrifying and liberating. You'll constantly make painful decisions, reorganizing teams, letting go of early employees who haven't scaled, evolving the very culture that made you successful. But you also have permission to make mistakes, experiment, and adapt. The company isn't a static blueprint. It's a living, breathing organism constantly evolving. So how can you apply these lessons today, even if you're not running a billion-dollar startup? First, take the CEO's initial challenge. Audit your calendar for 1 week. Just track where your time actually goes. Be brutally honest. How much goes to high-impact, important work versus urgent but unimportant tasks? This simple exercise is the first step great leaders take to reclaim control of their most valuable resource. Second, think about your personal board of directors. Who are the 3 to 5 people you consistently turn to for advice? Are they the right people? Do they challenge you? Do they have experience you lack? Consciously curating your own trusted advisors is a micro version of building a world-class board. And third, practice being explicit about your values. What are 3 non-negotiable principles guiding your work or life? Write them down. Simply articulating what you stand for is the very first step in building culture, whether for a future company or just for yourself. Ultimately, the High Growth Handbook is about embracing controlled chaos. It's a guide for leaders who've created something so successful it threatens to tear itself apart. It teaches that building an enduring company isn't about avoiding the storm, but learning to pilot the ship straight through it, with wisdom, courage, and deep pragmatism. That was our journey through the High Growth Handbook by Elad Gil. We've covered core ideas today, but honestly, a summary can only ever be a map. The real adventure happens when you explore the territory yourself. The true value of a book like this lives in the details, the specific stories, and those quiet moments where particular advice resonates with a challenge you're facing right now. This summary is designed to help you decide if this book deserves your time. If anything we've discussed sparked recognition or curiosity, I encourage you to grab a copy. Reading it isn't just about learning, it's about equipping yourself with tools that can genuinely change how you build, lead, and succeed. A link to the book is in the description below. Also, if you found this summary valuable and want to keep exploring ideas that shape the world's most successful people, please take a moment to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It lets us know we're on the right track and ensures you won't miss our next journey into another transformative book. Let's keep learning and growing together.